Hey, do you like phones? I really hope so, because I'm about to bang on quite a lot about several new phones, so if you like phones, it'll be like Christmas came early. Unless you happen to not like Christmas because of that one festive period where your dad was arrested exposing himself to the Teesside under-17s volleyball league in the Aldi car park, and then your mum ended up shacking up with Uncle Kevin on Christmas Eve of all days. Uncle Kevin, who used to get his kicks by whipping you across your bare backside with an oversized candy cane wrapped in holly while dressed as Jolly St. Nick. In that case, Christmas coming early would probably cause you to scream hysterically and hide up in the attic, so maybe me banging on about a sack full of new phones would actually be more like Easter coming early. Unless Uncle Kevin used to do things to you while dressed as a big fuzzy bunny rabbit as well, but frankly you need to get over it. Uncle Kevin's dead now. He's been dead for 10 years. You smashed in his face with a steel Cadbury cream egg, buried him under the patio and told your mum that he'd buggered off to Bulgaria. So anyway, phones, let's go! Techspert Weekly! Now, it's somewhat unbelievably been 2 long years since Huawei last tore open its metaphorical launch Mac and jiggled about some fresh new Mate phones for our delight, making us wonder if these mega-sized mobiles had maybe gone the way of the Galaxy Note. But never fear, just this week the fresh Huawei Mate 50 series was unveiled over in China, packed with more bells and whistles than a bell and whistle factory. You've got a choice of 3 blowers here, all powered by Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 for beefy performance. The Mate 50 Pro boasts a better OLED display than the regular Mate 50, upgrading the refresh rate from 90 to 120Hz and stuffing in some 10-bit colour support. Although you're also lumbered with a proper Alf Garnet tash up top, just like those ruddy iPhones, all thanks to the additional depth sensing camera tech. For the rear optics, these fresh Huawei handsets share a 50MP primary camera with optical image stabilization and a 13MP ultra-wide-angle shooter, but the Pro upgrades the standard model's telephoto lens from a 12MP effort to a 64MP beefster. Both the Mate 50 and the Mate 50 Pro are IP68 water and dust resistant, and while the Pro slightly increases the battery capacity, you do get the same 66W wired charging and 50W wireless charging support on both the standard Mate 50 and that Pro. Oh, and yeah, that burnt orange Mate 50 Pro, that is one trouser-rousing slab of gorgeousness right there. Woof! If you happen to have enough money to make it more than merely drizzle, you could always spunk out some extra cash on this posh Porsche Design Special Edition. It is basically just another Mate 50 Pro, but this time with a reshaped camera chassis and Go Faster stripes slapped on the arse. And for some reason, this Captain Big Cock model also has a completely different telephoto shooter to the other 2 phones. This time it's a 48MP effort. And also, it doesn't come in orange, so frankly it can do one, especially as it costs the best part of $2,000 by current conversions. And currently the Huawei Mate 50 series is releasing in China alone towards the end of the month, but hopefully at some point we'll see a proper full-on UK launch, although as usual the lack of Google shenanigans will probably put a lot of folk off. And also this week, Motorola finally launched its latest trio of Edge flagship phones here in the West, including the Edge 30 Ultra with its batshit bonkers 200MP camera tech. This snapper uses 12-in-1 pixel binning, but the Ultra Res mode allows you to capture full-on 200MP photos if you absolutely must. And there's also a 50MP ultra-wide-angle shooter, a 12MP portrait sensor with 2x optical zoom, and around front you've got a 60MP selfie snapper. For the rest of the Edge 30 Ultra, you've also got a mighty 6.67-inch 144Hz OLED screen and stereo speakers, all slapped into a stunning sandblasted aluminium frame. And it ain't just a looker either. This motor blower is powered by a Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, so it's a proper smart bugger too. There's space for a 4600mAh battery with 125W wired and 50W wireless charging support, and up to half a terabyte of storage. If that is too much tech for your face to handle, well, no worries. Motorola also unveiled the Moto Edge 30 Fusion, which calms down a bit with a more typical 50MP main camera, a Snapdragon 888 Plus chipset, a 4400mAh battery, and 68W wired charging. It's a much more sedate mid-range mobile, and therefore kinda boring and not really worth banging on about here. Last up, there's the Moto Edge 30 Neo, which I am personally quite excited about because it's a compact 6.28-inch blower similar to the Xiaomi 12. This comes in special colours handpicked by Motorola's latest partner Pantone, including this spangly Very Perry option. Around the other side is a gorgeous 120Hz OLED display, although the Neo serves up more basic performance than its siblings with the Snapdragon 695 running the show. At least the 4000 mAh battery supports wireless charging though, unlike the Edge 30 Fusion, and you've also got that 68 watt wired charging. Expect some hot video action of me pulling these Motorola phones out of their boxes and flapping them about in front of the camera real soon. And oh yeah, almost forgot, Apple also did a fun thing this week which was billed as a launch, but in truer terms was actually just them rubbing fresh dog shit into the faces of their fans, who bizarrely seemed to love it, screaming, "Yes Tim, please smear my cheeks with more of that delicious arse fudge." First up, they got rid of the Mini, which was by far the best out of all of the 13s, so the most affordable options now are the iPhone 14 and 14 Plus, which are practically identical to last year's models. Hey, remember how top YouTubers bitched about how the £400 Pixel 6a has a 60Hz display? Wanna bet that they don't complain about a £1,000 iPhone having the same f***ing tech? Or the fact that half of it is still obscured by a selfie cam schlong yet again. We're talking old processor tech, old display tech, super old super slow ass 15 watt charging, old camera tech. There's nothing new about these phones. Calling it an iPhone 14 is completely disingenuous and misleading. It should be an iPhone 13T at absolute best. I mean, at this point their f***s to give bag is clearly completely drained. There's literally some sand at the bottom and maybe an old Twix wrapper, and that's it. No f***s left for anyone. So yeah, if you want an actual phone that's got actual new bits in it, you'll have to spunk up even more cash for those crazy expensive Pro models. And even then, all you're getting is an expandable floating screen turd and an always-on display. Yes, that is actually one of the big new features that they're screaming about for a phone that costs about the same as 3 Pixel 6as. Cost of living crisis? What cost of living crisis? Just sell your house and go live in a cardboard box, you big Jessie, because frankly, if you don't have an iPhone, then you're just a massive c***. Anyway, Apple also launched some watches and some earbuds and loads of other shit, but if you want to see anything more on any of that, they had their usual circle jerk crew out there in California covering it all. So by now there'll be at least 12 dozen highly gushing videos on all of that stuff, all of them sporting the obligatory thumbnail cum face. Is this good, Tim? A little bit more? Anyway, now it's time for the part of the show that's slightly less infuriating than an Apple launch. It's viewer comments. Viewer comments. So let's start with some hot chat about that £6,000 Bang & Olufsen soundbar that I covered in last week's episode, if you can even call it an episode. Ewan says, "I'd love to listen to Techspert Weekly on those speakers." Yeah, good point actually. They might even make me sound good. Yeah, that soundbar was pretty freaking awesome, as you kind of hope for several grand. Again, in a cost of living crisis, it's good to see Bang & Olufsen giving zero f***s. Yeah, we've got to check out some Rammstein on it, which was pretty bloody beefy, but I'd really love to rock out to some proper hardcore metal using that soundbar, although I do kind of worry that it would just shatter my face. Next up, Ricky Harvey says, "Love this more bespoke Techspert Weekly. Don't be afraid to do more guerrilla style shows, Chris." Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to try and do more sort of short form shows like that now that real life events are actually a thing again. I'm not just covering every single launch right here in my studio, although it does mean I now actually have to put on pants for launches, which is a bit of a shame. It was awesome to get to Berlin again though, absolutely love that place, love the currywurst of course, I might have consumed a few of those on the go, and of course the free bars as well. Oh my god, how I have missed a free bar. It's why I became a journalist in the first frickin' place. Though it wasn't the best organised in the world, I've got to say though. At one point there was about 60 tech journalists and tech PRs all crammed into a bar that was roughly the same size as a London flat. Not really sure why, when obviously it's Berlin, you've got frickin' massive beer halls on the go, but anyway, whatever. At some point the toilet door ended up falling off its hinges, which probably says a lot about Brits abroad. So apologies, Germany, for us lot being dickheads as usual. Oh, Ricky continues, "Give that liver a break every now and then though, yeah?" Yeah, possibly some sage advice there, Ricky, especially after all the Berlin shenanigans. Actually, that's a good shout. Maybe I'll take your advice and skip my usual breakfast pint and just go in for a bit of fruit juice instead. Yeah, here we go. Cheers, everyone. It's not quite the same without the Prosecco, gotta say. Next up, Theodore says, "Guy talking about phones while having a camera bag on his head, nothing out of the ordinary." I swear to God, Germans must just be the most polite nation on earth, because at least a dozen people wandered by me while I had that frickin' camera bag on my head, and not a single one even glanced at me, let alone said anything. Unless this is just some sort of weird Euro fashion thing that I'm not aware of, / possibly started. Tiger May Fury says, holy crap, I wish I could have thrown you a cap like magic to protect your super exposed noggin. Yeah, my scalp was ever so slightly tender after shooting that video. I really did not expect that much sun at all, because every single time I've been to Germany, and I'm talking every single time, it's been cloudy as and more often than not absolutely slashed it down as well. So naturally I didn't bother taking sun lotion. I left that out of the bag so I had more room for duty-free Drambuie. And Tiger May Fury continues, also the Xperia 5 Mark IV, will you be getting your hands on one to review please? Well, like the Xperia 1 Mark IV, I have requested a review sample from Sony because I'll be buggered if I'm going to spunk out about $1,000 of my booze funds in order to buy one. Unfortunately, some PRs have the slightly annoying habit of saying you're on the list, when what they actually mean is get stuffed, Baldy. And unfortunately it now appears that this is the case with Sony as well, not so much as a sniff of a sample. And I've got no idea why. I always had a good relationship with Sony, you know. Their PRs love to go out and get absolutely smashed on Cafe Patron. I love to go out and get smashed on Cafe Patron, so you know, we melded pretty well there. Next up, DVDV says, don't worry, you're always just a fuzzy bright white blur. Yeah, I do unfortunately appear somewhat ethereal on camera quite often thanks to my pallid complexion, but at least I know if this YouTube stuff ever falls on its arse, I can basically just become a criminal. Make a living robbing stores, because on their security camera footage it'll just like they had all of their gear nicked by a malevolent spirit. Paul says, what a consummate professional. I think you might be confusing me with MKBHD there, mate, and I can see why, because obviously we're very similar, have the same luxurious studio surroundings, but I'm the drunken one who substitutes insightful tech analysis with repetitive knob gags. Roman says, I love how he just casually omitted the new iPhone launch next week. Yes, partly because my brain was absolutely frazzled in that Berlin heat, and partly because I just couldn't give a f***. Graham says, a tech question. I knew it would happen eventually, as I know how much you dislike them, indeed. If like us mere mortals you had to use just one smartphone for the next 3 years, which would it be? The most important needs are excellent camera, a large bright screen for my wife's age and peepers and ease of use, and her current phone is a Samsung Note 8. Well, it sounds like your wife likes it big, Graham, and if she's used to the Notes already, then, you know, the obvious choices would be the likes of the S22 Plus and the S22 Ultra. It's got the same One UI experience that she'll already be used to, and you've got the several years of security and OS updates as well, so you're covered for 3 years, no worries. Alternatively, if you want to shift away from Samsung, you've got the Google Pixel 7 Pro, which should be launching next month, so just a little bit longer to hold on for that one. Otherwise, there's the Realme GT2, which is a more affordable option, although you don't get like up to 3 years of guaranteed software support with that one is the only problem. But yeah, as far as big phones are concerned, there's no shortage of them, so you really shouldn't struggle, to be honest. And that's definitely all the tech question shenanigans for this week. I'm already starting to get a migraine. Next up, Salt Colt says, you really remind me of my uncle. He's in jail, bless his soul. I'm not going to ask you exactly why he's in jail or why I remind you of him. That's probably a couple of questions best left unanswered. Next up, Flashart says, wouldn't recommend opening a merch store selling Mr. Wank Socks. The returns process would be absolutely vile. Yeah, but to be fair, that's why we have unpaid interns. Klaus Green Peterson says, loved you acting in Elementary. Oh yeah, that's Johnny Lee Miller, right? I did get that a couple of times back in the days of which crap celebrity do I look like this week? I think the last thing I saw him in was Trainspotting 2. I wonder what he's up to these days. Oh, bugger me. Apparently he's playing John Major, of all people, in the next series of The Crown. I can't picture that at all, I got to admit. From Sherlock Holmes to John Major, that is quite a leap. Anyway, really running out of time, so just a couple of final ones. Kyron says, one of the best cures for hangovers is lots of vitamin C and NAC, whatever that is, and a bit of liposomal glutathione? Glutathione? And Wookie1 says, holy moly, Uncle Spurt read my comment. And I just read it again, hooray! I'll drink to that. Oh, I forgot there was no booze in that. Anyway, massive thanks to everyone who commented in last week's debacle, I guess is probably the best word to be attributed to whatever that was. Please do smash your comments down below and we'll try and get through as many of those as possible next week. And speaking of next week,
this is about next week.
So, with a quick glance at the calendar shows there's nothing particularly thrilling going on next week. It looks like we've got some Sonos shenanigans launching on Tuesday, the 13th. I've shot my Samsung Galaxy Watch 5 review, so hopefully I'll have that for you next week as well. And I'm also hoping to finally review the Google Pixel 6a after having used it on and off for a good 6 weeks now, I think it is. It's got full-on Android 13, so full thoughts on all of that stuff coming at you. In the meantime, you have yourselves a bloody wonderful weekend. A massive thanks again for joining me for this shower of shit right to the very end, you committed bastard you. So have a wonderful one. I'll see you next week. Cheers, boy. I love you.